used to think I knew what love looked like. For 24 years, I believed I was living it. My name is Marcus Reynolds, and until last year, I was the proud husband of Victoria, father to 3 beautiful daughters, and a successful aerospace engineer in Seattle. We had the waterfront house in Bellevue, with floor-to-ceiling windows that captured Mount Rainier on clear days. We had the carefully curated social media profiles showcasing our exotic vacations and charity galas. We had everything that, from the outside, looked like the American dream fulfilled. I remember the day I proposed to Victoria. We were both finishing up at the University of Washington. She was studying marketing, already ambitious and focused on climbing the corporate ladder. I was the engineering student who somehow caught the attention of the most beautiful woman on campus. I'd spent 2 months' worth of earnings from my part-time job on a ring that seemed impressive at the time. When she said yes, I felt like I'd won life's lottery. How could someone so vibrant and stunning choose me? That question would haunt me years later, but back then, it was asked with wonder, not suspicion. The early years were a whirlwind. Her career took off at a prestigious marketing firm that specialized in luxury brands. My engineering work with aerospace technology provided the stable income that allowed us to buy our first home. When Natalie came along 3 years into our marriage, Victoria took just 6 weeks of maternity leave before diving back into work. I admired her drive, her determination. When the twins, Olivia and Emma, arrived 3 years later, we had already established our roles. Victoria was the glamorous, career-focused mother who still managed to look flawless at every school event she could attend. I was the steady, reliable father who handled weekend soccer practices and science projects. We complemented each other, or so I thought. Looking back, I can see that Victoria started changing about 10 years ago. At first, the shift was subtle. A new password on her phone, business trips that seemed to multiply, late nights at the office that left her somehow more energized than exhausted. But I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? We'd built a life together, created 3 incredible daughters, and established ourselves as the couple others aspired to be. When she was promoted to work directly under James Harrington, the company's charismatic CEO, I was genuinely happy for her. I organized a surprise dinner celebration and invited all her friends. She seemed touched, if a bit distracted that evening. That's when I should have noticed how she checked her phone throughout the night. How her smile never quite reached her eyes when I toasted her success. Instead, I chalked it up to her being overwhelmed by the new responsibilities. The twins had just turned 19 and were in their sophomore year of college, while Natalie was finishing graduate school and planning her wedding to Ryan. With the girls becoming more independent, I thought Victoria and I would finally have time to reconnect. I planned weekend getaways to wineries in Eastern Washington and surprised her with concert tickets to her favorite musicians. She accepted these gestures with what I now recognize as tolerant amusement rather than appreciation. "Oh, Marcus," she would sigh, "you're so predictable." I didn't understand then that predictable wasn't a compliment. I thought stability was our strength. The first undeniable crack appeared during a dinner party at our home. Victoria had invited several couples from her work, including James and his wife, Sophia. I didn't know then that Sophia was an attorney specializing in family law. I just knew she seemed quiet compared to her husband, who commanded attention with stories of business conquests and exotic travel. I was in the kitchen preparing coffee when I overheard Victoria's laugh, that specific laugh she used to reserve for my jokes in our early days. "Marcus is happy puttering around his engineering lab," she was saying. "He's content with his predictable life. Some men just lack adventure." The words stung, but it was James's response that really should have alerted me. "Not all men," he said, and Victoria's laughter changed tone, becoming lower, more intimate. I dismissed the interaction, telling myself I was being oversensitive. The evidence continued to mount, but I remained willfully blind. Victoria started attending, quote, executive leadership retreats that always seemed to include James but exclude other top managers. She bought new lingerie that I never saw her wear. She grew critical of almost everything about me. My clothes, my conversational topics, even the way I arranged my home office. The twins started making excuses to avoid family dinners when I was present, but made time for girls' nights with their mother. Only Natalie, who had moved to Portland with Ryan after their wedding, seemed unchanged in her affection toward me. One Thursday afternoon last spring changed everything. Victoria was supposed to be at a 3-day marketing conference in San Diego. I had taken a rare day off to fix our garden irrigation system, something that had been on my to-do list for weeks. I was behind the large rhododendron bushes when I heard the unmistakable sound of Victoria's laughter coming from our back patio. Confused, I peered through the foliage to see my wife, who should have been hundreds of miles away, sitting with Olivia and Emma, champagne glasses in hand. My first instinct was to call out, to ask about the conference. Something held me back. Instead, I accessed the security camera feed on my phone, which gave me audio from the patio speakers we'd installed for outdoor entertaining. What I heard shattered the foundations of my world. "Your father is such a trusting fool," Victoria was saying, her voice carrying the slight slur of someone on their second or third glass of champagne. "He actually believes I'm in conference rooms all day, while James and I are at that private beach resort." The twins giggled. My daughters, giggling at the deception of their father. "Mom, you've been seeing James for, 3 years now?" Olivia asked. "Has Dad really never suspected anything?" Victoria's laugh was cold. "Marcus sees what he wants to see. As long as I maintain appearances and show up to his boring work events twice a year, he's perfectly content." Emma leaned forward. "Remember when you and James were in the Maldives and Dad thought you were at that marketing summit in Chicago? He sent you that pathetic text about missing you, and you showed it to James?" They all erupted in laughter. "James said he'd never met a man so thoroughly domesticated," Victoria added, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes. I felt physically ill, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. 3 years. 3 years of lies, of mockery, of betrayal not just by my wife, but by my own children. The urge to confront them immediately was overwhelming, but some detached part of my brain, the analytical engineer, held me back. If I revealed myself now, they would just deny everything, create more lies, paint me as paranoid. I needed evidence beyond this conversation. I needed to be strategic. I stood there, phone in hand, as my entire world collapsed around me. The woman I'd devoted my life to was laughing about deceiving me, and my own daughters were in on it. Has someone you trusted ever betrayed you so completely? Share your experience in the comments below and let me know what you would have done in my position. And if you want to see how I turn this devastating moment into an opportunity for a better life, hit subscribe and the notification bell to catch the next part of my story. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. On the surface, I was the same, trusting Marcus, welcoming Victoria home from her conference with a home-cooked meal, asking about her presentations, playing the fool she already thought I was. Behind this facade, I became a detective in my own marriage. I hired a private investigator who documented Victoria and James entering and leaving hotels together. I gained access to her email accounts where they poorly disguised their communications. I found credit card statements showing romantic dinners on nights she claimed to be working late, hotel receipts for weekend getaways that contradicted her business trip claims. The most painful discoveries were the text exchanges with Olivia and Emma, where they helped coordinate alibis and laughed at what they called my, clueless devotion. Only Natalie seemed to be absent from these exchanges. I needed legal advice before making my next move, so I searched for a family law attorney. By pure cosmic coincidence, or perhaps fate has a sense of humor, I scheduled a consultation with Sophia Harrington. Yes, James's wife. I didn't make the connection initially. Harrington is a common enough surname, and she practiced under her maiden name. When I arrived at her office and recognized her from our dinner party, I nearly walked out. She recognized me too, and for a moment we just stared at each other, both clearly wondering if this was too awkward to proceed. "I can refer you to another attorney if this is uncomfortable," she said finally. Something in her eyes, a familiar pain, made me stay. "Actually," I said, "I think you might be the perfect person to help me." I laid out everything: the evidence of Victoria's affair, the daughter's complicity, my desire for a divorce that would not leave me financially devastated after supporting Victoria's career for decades. As I spoke, Sophia's professional demeanor cracked slightly. "I've suspected James was having an affair," she admitted, "but I didn't know who with." She took a deep breath. "This creates a conflict of interest for me professionally. I cannot represent you while I'm considering legal action against my own husband for similar reasons." We looked at each other across her desk, two people whose lives had been upended by the very people we trusted most. "But," she added, setting aside her legal pad, "perhaps we can help each other in other ways." What followed was unexpected. We developed a plan, not just for divorce proceedings, but for how we would reveal the betrayal to ensure neither of us would be painted as the villain in the narrative Victoria and James would undoubtedly craft. Victoria's 45th birthday was approaching, and I had already been planning a surprise party at our favorite upscale restaurant. Now, that celebration would serve a different purpose. The night of the party arrived. 50 of our closest friends gathered in the private room I'd reserved. Victoria entered to genuine surprise, looking stunning in a dress I later learned she had purchased for an upcoming weekend with James. I played the devoted husband, presenting her with an expensive necklace I'd bought weeks before discovering her betrayal. The evening progressed with dinner and drinks. Then came time for the planned video tribute I had created. The large screen descended, and the room quieted. My face appeared first, smiling, wishing Victoria a happy birthday, thanking her for 24 wonderful years together. Her expression was one of smug satisfaction as she accepted the adoration of the room. Then the video shifted. Suddenly, there was the security camera footage from our patio, Victoria and the twins laughing about deceiving me. Next came images from the private investigator, Victoria and James entering hotels, embracing in ways that left no doubt about their relationship. Hotel receipts, text messages, all displayed for the entire room to see. The silence was absolute. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. James, who had been jovially chatting with colleagues, froze mid-sentence. At the back of the room, Sophia stood up. "James," she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes, "you'll find divorce papers on your desk tomorrow morning." She walked out with more dignity than I've ever seen anyone display. As for me, I simply turned to Victoria, whose face had drained of all color. "Happy birthday," I said quietly. "I hope the truth sets you free. It certainly has done that for me." I left the restaurant as murmurs erupted behind me. By the time the social fallout began, I was already gone. I had resigned from my position at the aerospace company, liquidated my half of our assets after careful preparation with a different attorney Sophia had recommended, and disappeared to the one place I knew Victoria would never think to look. My family's old ranch in Montana's Paradise Valley. My grandfather had left it to me years ago, and I'd been paying the minimal property taxes while it sat mostly unused. Now it became my sanctuary. The first few days at the ranch were the loneliest of my life. The old house needed significant work, leaking roof, outdated plumbing, years of dust. But the physical labor was therapeutic. Every nail hammered, every wall repainted, felt like rebuilding myself from the foundation up. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from Victoria, alternating between rage, false remorse, and desperate attempts to rewrite history. I ignored them all. The twins sent accusatory texts. "How could you humiliate Mom like that? You've destroyed our family." Their selective memory about their own role in the deception was almost impressive. Only Natalie called with genuine concern. "Dad, where are you? Are you okay?" When I finally answered her call, my voice broke. "Did you know?" I asked, the question that had been haunting me. Her response was immediate. "I suspected something wasn't right, but Mom and the twins never included me in anything. You know, we've never been close since I called her out for flirting with one of my professors at graduation." I believed her. Natalie had always been more like me, straightforward, perhaps less dazzled by Victoria's charm. I gave her vague details about my location, but asked for time alone. She respected that, simply saying, "When you're ready, Dad, Ryan, Michael, and I would love to see you." Weeks passed as I established my new life. I had enough savings to take my time figuring out my next steps. The aerospace engineering expertise I'd developed over decades couldn't be directly applied in rural Montana, but my knowledge of complex machinery found an unexpected outlet. A neighbor's expensive tractor had been sitting idle because no local mechanic could figure out the computerized systems. I fixed it in an afternoon. Word spread. Soon I was receiving calls from ranchers across 3 counties, willing to pay premium rates for someone who understood both the mechanical and electronic components of their equipment. I converted the old barn into a workshop and started a specialized repair business. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd found professional success by returning to my roots, in a place Victoria had always considered beneath her. Victoria's attempts to contact me became less frequent as she dealt with her own consequences. According to Natalie, Victoria's company had launched an investigation into her misuse of corporate funds for her rendezvous with James. Their affair had become public knowledge, costing both of them the respect of colleagues. James had been forced to step down as CEO, and Victoria's carefully cultivated social standing had crumbled. 4 months after my departure, the divorce was finalized. Victoria received far less than she'd expected, given the documented infidelity and the fact that I'd been the consistent contributor to our retirement accounts while she'd spent lavishly on her double life. One cool Montana evening, as I sat on my newly rebuilt porch watching the sunset paint the mountains, I received an unexpected visitor. Sophia Harrington stood at the bottom of my porch steps, looking both out of place and somehow perfectly suited to the landscape in her simple jeans and sweater. "I hope you don't mind," she said. "Natalie told me where to find you." I invited her up, offered her coffee. She had finalized her divorce from James and accepted a teaching position at the law school in Bozeman, just an hour away. "I needed a complete change," she explained. "And Montana seemed as good a place as any to start over." Standing on the porch of my family's ranch, watching that Montana sunset paint the sky in colors more vivid than I'd seen in years, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades: peace. Have you ever had to completely restart your life? How did you find the courage to begin again? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more stories of people who found strength in their darkest moments, subscribe to Levitt Daily and join our community of survivors who understand that sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one. Sophia and I developed a friendship grounded in our shared experience. We understood each other's trust issues, the triggers that could send us spiraling back into painful memories, the need to move forward without rushing. We took long hikes in the mountains and had dinner together once a week, talking about everything except our exes. 6 months after my move to Montana, Natalie visited with Ryan and little Michael. Seeing my grandson run across the fields that my own grandfather had once tended brought a joy I hadn't expected to feel again. Natalie helped me furnish the house, transforming it from a functional shelter to an actual home. During their visit, she filled me in on Victoria's life. "She's not doing well, Dad," Natalie said as we watched Ryan pushing Michael on a tire swing I'd hung from an old oak tree. "She lost her job. The twins are still speaking to her, but they've gotten a lot of fallout too. Their friends saw the video, and it spread through their social circles. They've had to face some hard truths about their behavior." I felt no satisfaction in Victoria's suffering, just a dull ache for what might have been had she made different choices. "And how are you handling everything?" I asked my eldest daughter. Natalie sighed. "I'm angry at her, at all of them. You didn't deserve what they did." She looked directly at me. "I'm sorry I didn't see it clearly enough to warn you." I hugged her then. "You have nothing to apologize for," I assured her. "You were building your own life, as you should have been." After Natalie's family left, promising to return soon, I received the first text from Olivia that wasn't accusatory. "Dad, I don't know if you'll read this, but I'm sorry. What we did was wrong." It wasn't enough, not yet, but it was a start. Emma followed a week later with a similar message. I responded to both with the same carefully considered words. "I'm not ready to forgive, but I'm willing to listen when you're ready to talk honestly about what happened and why." Sophia and I continued our weekly dinners, which gradually became more frequent. We moved slowly, both scarred by betrayal, both cautious about trusting again. Our first kiss happened on New Year's Eve, watching fireworks over the mountains from my porch. "I never expected this," she whispered against my lips. "Neither did I admitted. But maybe that's the best kind of beginning." Spring came to Montana, melting the snow and bringing new life to the ranch. Emma visited first, alone, clearly nervous as she approached the house. Our conversation was difficult, painful, but necessary. She cried when she explained how Victoria had slowly normalized the deception, making it seem like harmless fun rather than the profound betrayal it was. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she said as she was leaving. "I just want a chance to earn back your trust." Olivia came 2 weeks later, her apology similar but with her own insights about why she'd gone along with Victoria's narrative. "We always saw your love as weakness," she admitted. "Mom made it seem like you were naive, not devoted. I see differently now." A year after the night of Victoria's birthday party, I hosted a gathering at the ranch. Natalie, Ryan, and Michael were there, along with Emma and Olivia, who were still working to rebuild our relationship. Sophia moved comfortably through my home, no longer a guest but a partner. As we all sat around the large farmhouse table I'd restored myself, eating a meal prepared in the kitchen where my grandmother had once taught me to make bread, I looked at the faces surrounding me. Here was the truth about love that Victoria had never understood. It wasn't about appearances or status or the impression you created for others. It was about showing up authentically, acknowledging mistakes, forgiving imperfections, and choosing each other day after day. Later that evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Sophia and I sat on the porch swing, her head resting against my shoulder. She took my hand and placed it gently on her stomach. "I wasn't sure how to tell you," she said softly, "but we're going to have a baby." At 46, I had never expected to start over with a new child. The emotion that overcame me was overwhelming. Joy mixed with a hint of fear, gratitude intertwined with disbelief. Sophia watched my face carefully. "Is this okay?" she asked. I pulled her closer. "It's more than okay," I assured her. "It's a second chance I never thought I'd get." As we sat there, planning a future I could never have imagined a year earlier, I realized that what had felt like an ending had actually been a beginning. Victoria's betrayal, painful as it was, had freed me from a life of comfortable deception and set me on a path toward something authentic. The mountains stood silhouetted against the night sky, timeless witnesses to human suffering and joy. They had seen my despair when I first arrived, broken and alone. Now they watched as I built something new from the ashes of what was lost. If you're in the midst of betrayal or heartbreak right now, hearing my story, I want you to know that the pain doesn't last forever. The path forward isn't always clear, and healing isn't linear, but there is life. Rich, meaningful life, waiting on the other side of betrayal. Sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings emerge from the most painful endings. If my journey has touched you, please share this video with someone who might need to hear that hope exists beyond betrayal. Subscribe to Leave It Daily for more stories of resilience, and leave a comment about your own experience with rebuilding after loss. Remember, you're never alone in your darkest moments. There's a whole community here who understands, who has walked this path before you, and who believes in your power to rise again.